Shalom, holy initiates and holy adepts. Before I begin this video, I needed to state something in regards to my previous video, which was an advanced Kabbalistic video on the arcane construct of duality. Now, towards the end of the video, I stated that the next video that I would be uploading would be a very advanced Kabbalistic video dealing with some very esoteric mysteries behind Pesach and the Divine Lambs. However, I have been doing a lot of praying and meditating as usual the past week, specifically on this Kabbalistic knowledge that I planned to present. And essentially, I came to the final realization that the knowledge was way too advanced to present in a video. It's rather difficult to explain. Nevertheless, that very advanced Kabbalistic knowledge will be revealed by me through another format sometime in the next 6 months, which for now, up to then, will remain undisclosed. Now, proceeding to this video. This video will be, I guess you could say, a rather long video dealing with the Yihudim. And this is going to be a very advanced, in-depth, rather technical video on the Yihudim. So it is very momentous that before watching this video, as a prerequisite, you go and watch my video entitled Hi Holy Magikh, Introduction to Yihudim, Part 1. In that video, I give a very high-level overview, general overview of Yihudim, what they are, what they're about, defining them and putting them in spiritual context, etc. So it's a very, very important video to see before you watch this video, because this video builds upon what was taught in that video. Now, in this video, we're going to get very, very deep into the esoteric Lurianic Qabbalah. And I hope that many of you are very grateful that I'm even doing a video that is this in-depth on the Lurianic Qabbalah, because unfortunately, much of what you will find on Qabbalah, on the internet, for the most part, I want to say maybe 90% of it is all pseudo-Qabbalah, and is presented by, I would call nothing more than a bunch of pseudo-Kabbalists or uninitiated Kabbalists, partially initiated Kabbalists at best. And so this is just really, really lamentable, to say the least, that we don't have any true highly or fully initiated Grandmaster Kabbalists on the scene that are wholly and fully initiated and teaching that they're teaching the holy mysteries to Israel, the children of Ha Elohim. This is very, very lamentable, to say the least. There's so much pseudo Kabbalah and garbage, or watered down Kabbalah out there. So it's very, very lamentable. But this is why I have come on the scene. I have been preordained by Elohei Israel, initiated by him and sent out by him, and commanded by him to be sent out to reveal and teach these holy mysteries to the deserving elect of Israel. So, continuing now with the discourse at hand, we may say that there are a number of functions behind the Yihudim. Okay, primarily, we understand that the Yihudim are their primary function, really, quintessentially, is to unify the upper emanations and the universes that exist in the higher supernal realms. But there are also other functions besides that. Other functions include atoning and rectifying the relevant spiritual partsufim, or aspects of your spiritual existence for transgressions. In this case, whether it's your nefesh, your neshama, or your ruach. They are also utilized for invoking and evoking the most holiest and most elite of the holy saints. I'm speaking of saints, whether it be Moshe, Eliyahu, or even Grandmaster Kabbalists, like we may say the Arizal or any others for that matter. Also, for what in the ancient Hebrew Qabbalah is known as Ibor, which is known as spiritual impregnation, really just spiritual possession, but in this case, spiritual possession of Holy Spirit. So we have to understand that quintessentially spirituality is binary. There is an evil aspect and there is a holy aspect. And so we have two types of spiritual possessions that may exist within a person. They can be either spiritually possessed by Holy Spirits within the domain of the Sefirot, or they can be possessed by demonic satanic spirits within the domain of the Klipot or Lucifer. They can also be used for assistance in spiritual battle as well, which is a more lesser known function of the Yihudim, which I will speak a little bit more towards the end of this disquisition. Now, I want to speak a little bit before we get really deep into the matter on divine conjugal union. We need to understand that quintessentially the animus of High Holy Magikh is to unite the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And there are a number of holy rituals and methods by which this is done. Primarily, quintessentially, this is done through keeping the mitzvot of the Torah and also through the Yihudim. So the two most powerful, really quintessentially the two main primary functions or acts or rituals that unite the divine masculine and feminine are really keeping the mitzvot of the Torah. That is when Yisrael is keeping the mitzvot of the Torah, and also performing Yihudim. Now, when Yisrael obeys the Torah, then we can say that the divine feminine and the divine masculine are in a very high state of unity. Okay, but when they are violating the Torah, then this causes divine separation in the supernal realms, and this is very, very bad. And this is why it is incumbent upon all of Israel to keep and guard the holy divine covenant, which is the Torah. And when we have so many when we have so many Israelim that are breaking the commandments, this causes a lot of separation in the divine supernal realms, and it's very, very bad for our universe at hand. And so unfortunately we have many Israelites that just simply have really not understood this great mystery for thousands of years. It's really, really sad, even in this generation, with so many ignorant and I would go as far as to say stupid Christians that are so spiritually retarded in thinking that Yeshua abolished the Torah, God forbid. And then we have many ignorant and secular Jews who think they are too intellectually superior for religion and mysticism and spirituality, which again is really lamentable to say the least. And so because of all of this, for so much time having passed by with Israel breaking the Holy Covenant, both houses were, being Beit Yehuda and Beit Israel or Beit Ephraim, breaking the covenant, we've had to deal with so much evil in this world as a result of this, of there being so much divine, separation. And so this is the core goal of the Holy Saint. One of the top core, missions and goals of the Holy Saint or Zaddik is to unite the supernal realms, and more importantly, to unite our Heavenly Mother and our Heavenly Father. because when we cause when we help to stimulate conjugal union between them and to unite them, then that brings down many blessings, uh, um, and good tidings. So again, I emphasize all of this because this is a core emphasis that you will find in many of our ancient Kabbalistic texts, and it is essentially very, very, very momentous to understand this, but even more importantly, to bring about the conjugal union and unity between our heavenly parents. Okay, and essentially this is the core mystery behind the Yihudim, essentially. Now I want to speak a bit on the mystery of sex, because there are many spiritual mysteries behind the conjugal union between a man and a woman. Okay, and I want to primarily speak on this from the perspective of Israel, because as a highly initiated Kabbalist, we have to, I have very advanced understandings that most other people don't have. So if you've seen my previous video on the arcane construct of duality, then you understand that principally there are two lots that exist in this universe, that of Israel and that of the Goyim. And so I'm going to speak here from the perspective of Israel, because this is whom my calling and mission is towards, is to Israel, not to the Goyim. And we Israel are superior in every regard. And so we are the only nation that can be truly said truly descends from Ha Elohim, that is the highest gods. This is not the case with the Goyim, and this is why we are superior to all the other Goyim. Now, many young holy male Israelites, you will find, tend to be very sexually charged. And this is, in fact, an image of the archetypal divine, okay? When you become initiated, you'll begin to understand that the divine masculine is in a constant state of extreme potent flux for the divine feminine. And so the supernal's father desire is essentially for the supernal mother, and it is as high as it gets. His desire spiritually for the divine feminine is so powerful, so great, that it cannot even be expressed in human language. And the sexual desire of us young, male Israelites, is simply a reflection of this archetypal divine state. Okay, and we read about this, throughout the ancient Hebrew scriptures. We read of many tzaddikim who we find tend to be very sexually charged, whether it's Shamshon or David or Shlomo. Right? We find many. There are certain holy saints, not all of them. There are the greatest saints, the saints that operate at the highest levels, will usually have total control of their sexual domain. And that's really the quintessence of a tzaddik, is that he has total mastery over the sexual domain. But there are lower tzaddikim that that tends to be their weakness, or they struggle with that, because part of being a tzaddik is gaining mastery, over that divine self-image that is being reflected of the archetypal, divine state. Okay, and so this is very, very momentous to understand, because this core quintessential theme is reiterated many times in our ancient Kabbalistic texts. And the most telistic, most esoteric text of the entire ancient Hebrew scriptures is Shir HaShirim, or the Song of Songs, which is the most erotic text that has ever really been written. And this text encodes and encrypts some of the highest, most esoteric holy mysteries. And again, at the core of these holy mysteries is understanding the holy mysteries and these holy spiritual mysteries behind sex and sexuality, etc. Now, I, being of the house of David, a direct descendant of King David, and knowing other members around the world who descend from King David, it is a known fact that our, aristocratic bloodline uh, has been has one of its weaknesses is within the domain of sexual immorality. And so that's why we see that sexual immorality is one of the weaknesses of not just the Davidic bloodline, but the bloodline of the tribe of Yehuda. And we see the roots of this beginning in the sin of Yehuda, in when he slept with his daughter-in-law Tamar. Those were the spiritual roots that he planted, exposing this weakness, this great weakness of Yehuda, which has been which has passed through the generations of the tribe of Yehuda, even infiltrating more relevantly the Davidic bloodline. So again, there are a lot of holy spiritual mysteries behind sexuality, behind sex, and unfortunately, this video is not intended to go into all of that. But I did want to make a few points on this because quintessentially the Yihudim are all about stimulating and arousing divine conjugal union between our heavenly parents. And so, in understanding that, we also need to understand the spiritual roots and reasons, behind our sexuality. So that was really important, to state. Now, I want to say also that all of the teachings of the Lurianic Qabbalah are nothing new. So before I continue the disquisition, I wanted to pause for a little while here and reiterate that most famous ancient Israeli proverb that there's nothing new under the sun. And indeed, this is always the case. It's always been the case. And one thing that I tend to be annoyed at is that when I read many texts that are written by many of the common Rabbanim or uninitiated Kabbalists or Jewish scholars, etc., right? There tends to be this understanding in many of their writings that the Lurianic Qabbalah, is something that's very innovative, that its teachings are very innovative, and that in a lot of respects that there are even new teachings to be found within it. But in all actuality, this understanding that is spread by many of the Jewish scholars, common Rabbanim, etc., is actually not true at all, and it just goes to demonstrate their ignorance on the ancient Kabbalah, and just also goes to demonstrate that they're not even initiated into the holy mysteries. But even more importantly, that they have no understanding, no true holistic, comprehensive understanding of the Lurianic Qabbalah. In reality, if you are fully initiated into Lurianic Qabbalah, you will know, as a matter of fact, that there isn't anything new in the Lurianic Qabbalah. All of its teachings were already known by all the Grandmaster Kabbalists before Yitzhak Luria came on the scene. And many of its teachings are already found in many of our principal Kabbalistic texts. The only thing that we find in the Lurianic Qabbalah is that Yitzhak Luria expanded on a few teachings that maybe were not given a lot of attention in some of our principal texts, or were not given a lot of attention by his predecessors, which were other Grandmaster Kabbalists. So the grand point in all of this is that you shouldn't come into the Lurianic Qabbalah with this false understanding that it's an innovative branch of the Qabbalah, or that it contains many new or innovative teachings, because it really does not. And so essentially all the school of Yitzhak Luria did was just emphasize or expand or focus on certain teachings that may have not been so emphasized or expanded, um, you know, in prior generations. But not that they were not already known, because of course they were already known. And also another important point that I want to make in regards to Lurianic Kabbalah, as we will see here shortly, as we get deeper, as we get very deep into the writings of Haim Tal, is that the school of Yitzhak Luria, which I commend greatly for, put a very strong emphasis on holy magic over theory, because these Grandmaster Kabbalists within the Lurianic yeshiva understood very well the great problem that we've had with what we would call a lot of jackass Jews throughout the centuries, in that there have been many common Jews and Rabbanim that have put this very strong emphasis on, always studying the Torah, which is good. It is good to always study the Torah. This is the goal of the Zadik, but they go to extreme lengths where they are sticking their heads in holy books 24/7, to the point where they want the community to fund their theoretical excursions into the holy books 24/7. Now, having this understanding, living a life like this, demonstrates a profound ignorance of the ancient wisdom and teachings of our ancient holy patriarchs. Okay, all you need to do is go read Tractate Aboth in the Talmudim, specifically in Talmud Babli, and they tell you that a good Rab must have a secular job and must make a living for himself, while at the same time being holy and being initiated, into the holy domain and into the holy kingdom of, Ha Elohim. Okay, and this is a great problem that we currently have in Israel, with so many ignorant Orthodox Jews who all they want to do is stick their heads in books 24/7. They don't want to serve in the military. They don't want to work. They want to suck off the government teat. And this entire lifestyle, this entire understanding goes entirely against the Holy Torah, against the Holy Covenant. And this is a very big problem for real holy, highly initiated Jews such as myself. And Grandmaster Kabbalists understand this very well. And this is exactly why Yitzhak Luria and the Lurianic Yeshiva put a strong emphasis on holy magic over theory, right? So we find this with Grandmaster Kabbalists. If you ever the closest you will ever come to meeting Yeshua or Jesus in person is actually meeting a highly initiated Grandmaster Kabbalist. They are the most nearest image to Mashiach, because most of them are highly, if not fully, initiated into the holy mysteries. You will see them go and immerse themselves amongst the poor, amongst the needy, even sinners. They will lay hands and they will heal people. They will pray for people, and people will be healed. They cause miracles for the benefit of mankind. They do a lot of supernatural miracles. They're very, very holy saints, and they become very famous and known for their holiness. And this was a standard Grandmaster. This is what a standard Grandmaster Kabbalist is like. You meet one, and they'll know what, before you come to them, they'll already know what you're going to come to talk to them about or ask them or whatever. They walk in very high levels of the Holy Spirit, and they're the closest image to Mashiach or Yeshua in a sense. And so Yitzhak Luria understood this, being a Grandmaster Kabbalist, and so he said, you need to, it's not good enough that you just gain all of this knowledge and wisdom. You need to apply it as well, and applying it is going out and laying hands on people and healing them, performing supernatural miracles for the benefit of mankind, restoring, unifying the upper emanations and the universes. It's all about practicality and being practical and changing the universe for the better. This is the whole point of it. We can't have all of these stupid dumb common Jews and Rabbanim that are just sticking their heads in books 24/7. That doesn't really get a lot of things done. It does there is supernatural activity that does occur as a result of that, but that's not the optimal lifestyle, so to speak. So again, this is a very, very, very crucial point, as we will see here shortly. Now, here I want to begin with some quotations from our most ancient esoteric text, Sefer Tikkun HaZohar, and I want to show some quotations that implicitly speak on the performance of Yihudim, just to demonstrate that what we are going to be reading about and studying here in the Lurianic Qabbalah is nothing really new. It's already was known beforehand. Okay. So we read in Sefer Tikkun HaZohar in the introduction in folio 2a, it states, in order to unify through them the name of Adonai and Shekhinah, like Adam, who united with his soulmate or his limbs to send forth his seed from above. We also read in Tikkun 50 in folio 86b, it is stated, for they who unify his name evening and morning continually every day, they who say it twice. Now again, here in this folio, it is speaking on the Shema, and it is here implicitly teaching that the Shema is likened to the archetypal Yihud of all Yihudim. It's the most powerful Yihud that any Jew can really perform, is reciting the Shema twice daily. In fact, that is stipulated explicitly in the Torah. If you are not reciting the Shema twice daily at least, then you are in violation of the Holy Covenant, and this is not good. Okay? Now, how many even Christians know that this is they should be doing this twice a day? Again, this goes to demonstrate the vast ignorance of Christianity in general, and it's most lamentable to say the least. We also read in Tikkun 56 and folio 98, it states, but above all of them are one group or bunch, one singularity, and because of this below, Zadik is required to unify the letters of Adonai with his Shekhinah, which is near to the offering of Adonai. So here the verse is speaking on the conjugal union primarily between Zadik, who represents the lowest archetypal divine phallus, and Shekhinah, who represents the archetypal divine pudendum. We also read in folio 90b, it states, all of the Sefirot are included in him without separation and cutting, and to unify the son and the daughter, which are siblings. Again, what we have here is the divine unification between the Holy Divine Son and the Holy Divine Daughter in conjugal union. Now, there are very great mysteries behind this conjugal union, which are explained in our ancient Kabbalistic texts, which unfortunately I cannot fully expand on here in this video because it's for another topic and subject, but I did very, very briefly allude to one of these mysteries in another video, which I cannot remember the name of, where it speaks on the holy mysteries behind incest. Okay, now I don't want to get into it here because it's beyond the scope of this video, but again, that's not to say that I'm saying that incest is good or permitted. Obviously, it's not. The Torah strictly forbids incest, but that does not take away from the fact that there are a lot of holy mysteries and spiritual mysteries behind incest itself. But moving on, we also read in Tikkun 66 and 97b, therefore it is required to remove all other thoughts during the time when unify HaKadosh Baruch Hu twice every day during the recital of the Shema. Again, another verse that is emphasizing the power, the immense spiritual power in reciting the Shema twice a day. When you understand the holy mysteries and the holy actions that are taking place behind this recital of the Shema. Now, again, another point that I would like to add that I feel I should have added towards the beginning of this video is that when I'm using all of this language of divine conjugal union, etc., I'm expecting all of you listeners who are initiates and adepts that you understand that I'm speaking in archetypal metaphorical language. Because, again, these are all archetypes and we can only understand the higher realms through allegory and through metaphor. So I hope you have that basic understanding. If you do not, then please be leaving this channel and video very soon. Now, here I also wanted to bring up another couple more momentous passages dealing with this topic in Tikkun HaZohar. We also read in the introduction in folio 3a, it states, corresponding to these divine names is, and then it gives this divine name, which is a amalgamation of the divine name of the Tetragrammaton and that of Adonai, which literally translates in the Hebrew as my lords, in the plural. Now, between the recital of the Shema and the prayer, between song, praise, and confession, and all the divine names are to be devoted speech to Adonai and the voice of the Tetragrammaton, and to unite them like one in conjugal union. Now, the Hebrew word for conjugal union, the ancient Hebrew word is Yehud. Right? Yehud has many meanings. It can primarily signify conjugal union, but it can also signify unity. Again, this is understanding that these two divine names, one may refer to the divine masculine and the other one to the divine feminine. This divine name is considered to be one of the most powerful divine names to be known. In fact, it's probably one of the top 10 divine names of all divine names in terms of power. And it is one of the most famous divine names throughout all of our ancient Kabbalistic literature, because it is a very powerful divine name behind some of the most powerful and core Yihudim that are performed. So this is very, very momentous to understand at this point. Now, we also read in folio 3b, it states, indeed, therefore, Yesod, who is eternal life, is joined to the middle pillar and lower Shekhinah, which is the place of prayer and included in the 18 blessings. He will unite both names like one, and then they are that divine name. Their union of the two names must be done in secret. Now, the reason that the performance of all Yihudim that involve this divine name, the reason they are done in secret, again, goes to the fact that conjugal union is done in secret. It's not done openly, okay? Only Luciferians and Satanists are brazen enough to do it openly. But the Zadekim, the holy saints, know better and do it in private. That is when it's to be done. Now, here the middle pillar, as we should know, represents the holistic archetypal divine phallus, with Shekhinah representing the archetypal divine pudendum. Should also be duly noted that the 18 blessings is a reference to the core ancient Israeli liturgical prayer known as the Amidah or the Shmoneh Ezra. Shmoneh Ezra in ancient Hebrew signifies the number 18. This standard prayer, considered to be probably one of the most, if not the most, really the most powerful prayer, consists of 18 blessings, as should be known by holy initiates and holy adepts. And the number 18, numerically or in gematria, is equal to the Hebrew word chai, which means life. Now, the ninth emanation of the Sfaroth, who goes by many divine names and titles, one of them being Yesod here. Another title for Yesod also is eternal life, which can also be understood as the life of the universes. There's many meanings to this other title. Now, we should also note that Yeshua HaMashiach spoke a lot of eternal life. All of his references to eternal life were all, of course, Kabbalistic references to the ninth emanation, which is his father. He is Mashiach, principally is the divine son of Yesod, or eternal life, which is why he is the only one that can offer eternal life. There's a lot of great Kabbalistic mysteries behind this. So I'm giving you a few crumbs from the master's table. I can't give you the full entree at this moment because it's beyond the scope of this video. Now here we're going to begin now, and we're going to get very in-depth into the writings of the chief disciple of the Arizal, which is Chaim Vital. Now, he wrote a very powerful book called The Gate to the Holy Spirit. And within this book, there are hundreds of Yihudim, where it is explained the operations behind all of these Yihudim. Now, I'm going to be reading to you from the third chapter of this book. So the way the book is written is it has 3 introductory chapters, and then what follows are hundreds of pages of Yihudim. Now, currently there is only one English translation of this book, which was only very, very recently done, I think within the past few years, maybe even more recent than that. However, this English translation is divided into 3 tomes, and each tome is going to fetch you about $200. So I guess it all depends on your zeal for being initiated, or you could just learn Hebrew. Now, I'm going to begin reading to ye from here certain excerpts from his book. These are my personal top-notch English translations of the underlying Hebrew text. So we begin in pages 58 to 59 of the original Hebrew book, in the original Hebrew. In this chapter that I'm translating from here, this is where in the book he begins to introduce the topic of the Yihudim. So this chapter, in a sense, serves as an introduction to understanding the mechanics and operations behind the Yihudim. Now, it's a very, very introductory chapter. It is by no means means it to be a comprehensive, holistic introduction, but it's meant to be a brief introduction into the topic of the Yihudim. Now he writes, "Behold, the man who performs Yihudim of Elyon, the Neshamot of the saints cleave to him. Behold, the saints reveal themselves to man and cleave to him. They are the cause of their being from the root of his neshama. Sometimes they come in the form of Ibur to assist him because he did some mitzvot in relation to them. And the secret of the matter is that the Rabbanim, who used to be alive, would perform Yihudim of Elyon continually, and they knew to meditate at the desired time of Elyon. Through this they reaped great benefits. The reason is that if man does it at any other hour, he cannot reap benefit because the root of his nefesh is alone, but the Yehudim at the desired time cause the unification of all the supernal roots. It is written that Mekabatziel gathers and unifies all the universes." Now, in the last statement there, he's given the name of a very powerful divine God known as Mekabetziel, who's responsible behind the core operations of all the Yihudim. Now, one of the things that he states here is that the most elite saints, those who operate at the highest levels, those that we can truly say have been initiated literally at the highest levels, of which there are only a few, and I'll give you a few names. These are the most ancient saints that we know of, like let's say Moshe, Eliyahu, Hanok, Yeshua. These are names like this. These are essentially incarnations of Elohim, or the gods themselves. Okay, and he's saying the reason what this really truly distinguishes the saints at the highest levels from those at the lowest levels is that they spent the core of their time performing Yihudim and unifying the upper universes and the upper emanations. Why? Because they understand the most ancient core maxim, as above, so below. They understand that everything begins above. And so while on one level we can say, well, let's go out and let's perform holy magical operations in healing people and performing miracles, etc., right? That essentially is merely treating a symptom. That's not treating the root cause. What is the root cause of evil, of poverty, of affliction, etc.? These root causes are in the supernal realms. And they, understanding this, then seek to rectify the root causes of evil. Rather than treating the symptoms, they treat the root cause. This is what separates them from the lower saints. It's a very, very momentous principle to understand. Another core principle that he mentions here is that the time to perform these Yihudim is also very crucial. There are certain times of the day when the performance of Yihudim is most optimal, okay? And so we have to understand this from also the astrological perspective and understanding the gods of time and how they dominate and how they run time and its images here in the lower realms. So again, time is a very crucial matter in the performance of this Yihudim, and he's saying here that it's very crucial that you perform at the optimal desired times, because that is when you maximize the benefit from their performance. So this is very, very important to understand, and we'll get a little deeper here as we continue into what are these desired times. Now here, I just wanted to mention some of the names of these elite holy saints, because I didn't translate here, but in the next few pages, he goes on speaking on the core qualities of the most elite saints that we know of that were instrumental in performing Yihudim on a constant basis. And like I said, some of these figures included, according to Chaim Vital, Benayahu ben Yehoyada, who was called Ish Chai, Moshe, Rab Humnuna Saba, etc. And again, they are the elites. They're known to be the most initiated saints at the highest level. Some of these are even gods in the flesh, believe it or not. And the reason is again because they performed Yihudim continually. And they continually united the supernal universes, and even more importantly, the feminine waters, which is a Kabbalistic reference to the divine feminine. Okay, again, we will find that in the ancient Qabbalah, we find a multitude use of sexual erotic motifs and terms, which are used to encode and encrypt the higher spiritual mysteries. Okay, so it's very, very crucial and important to understand, because it is only us Kabbalists that truly understand the holy mysteries behind sex, sexuality, conjugal union, eroticism, etc. Now, we read in pages 59, he states, "Therefore, after their passing," in reference to the elite saints, "in every place that they see two learned men laboring in the Torah and performing Yihudim of Elyon, they reveal themselves and are found there with them. Or they will stand there concealed, cleaving with them continually, although they are not from their root. The reason is because they are in the mystery of the inclusion of all the universes, and they reveal to them the secrets of the Torah, and know that if the neshamot of the saints reveal themselves to man who is from the root of his neshama, this is extremely wonderful. Because even to the one who is not from the root, they reveal themselves to. It is written that if it is to one who is from their root, there is tikkun through his tikkun, as is known." Now, the Hebrew word tikkun has many meanings. One, it can mean an adornment, but it can also mean restoration or rectification. Now, in this first statement here, where he says that everywhere they see two learned men laboring in the Torah, they reveal themselves. Well, this goes back to an even greater Kabbalistic mystery, really, that everywhere there are two learned men that are laboring in the Torah, Shekhinah is there. And this Kabbalistic mystery, interestingly enough, is even repeated in the New Testament, where it states in the Gospel of Matityahu, it states there explicitly that where there are two, men of Elohim, Shekhinah is there. Elohim is there. And it's not just enough that Elohim is there. If she's there, then so is her entourage, which you better believe includes the most highest Zadikim, or saints. And depending on your level of holiness, they will either reveal themselves to you, she will reveal herself to you. Or, if you're not holy enough, they'll still be there, but they'll just be concealed from you. So, we move on to page 60, where it states, also know that the man who begins to perform Yihudim and is prevented from doing so, behold, it causes great harm to him. It causes the neshamot that desire to cleave to man to separate and distance themselves from him. And do not say that laboring in the Torah is great. It is not correct to state this, for the matter of performing Yihudim is greater than laboring in the Torah, for it unifies the supernal universes. It is called laboring in Torah and Yihud, and everything is all together. And although the neshamot do not reveal themselves, it is proper not to speak and desist from the Yihud. And it is required that his intention is not only to draw forth this neshama, but to restore and rectify the supernal universes. Now, again, here he's revealing some very powerful, great mysteries behind the Yihudim. On one very high level, the Yihudim, in performing them, draws forth very, very elite and powerful high-level neshamot from your supernal root to come and descend and possess you. This is what he was speaking earlier on Ibur, to become impregnated by the neshamot from your supernal root. And he also states, if you are performing a Yihud and for whatever reason you don't perceive any supernatural activity taking place, do not desist from the Yihud at hand. Continue doing it. For you will not always perceive the supernatural activity taking place, but it is there and it's happening. Whether you perceive it or you don't perceive it. It's all just a matter of your holiness, your level of holiness. Now, do we know how he stresses the importance of the Yihudim over studying the Torah? Now, ideally, you have to allot a certain amount of time to study the Torah. And then once you have fulfilled that allotted time, you must then spend the rest of your time in performing the Yihudim. Right? And of course, you are required every single day to recite the Shema, twice daily. Okay? In fact, you want to recite the entire Shmoneh Ezra, the Amidah, twice daily, which includes the Shema. That's the core archetypal Yihudim that you are performing, and then after you finish doing those two, you would then go and perform other Yihudim on top of that. Again, he is stressing the great importance of performing Yihudim way over studying the Torah. Because studying the Torah, the power, the supernatural power that is emitted from studying the Torah pales in comparison to the supernatural power that is emitted from performing the Yihudim. Okay? It's a difference between, maybe shooting a machine gun or dropping a small bomb or a grenade and, exploding a nuclear bomb. That's how great, the difference is between studying the Torah and performing Yihudim. Okay? And so here we can see that quintessentially the core functions of the Yihudim is to draw down your higher spiritual existence in the supernal realms, to impregnate you, to possess you, to bring you to even higher levels of holiness. And then that's where it gets really exciting. That's when the real fun begins. Now, we also read in pages 59, I may have the pages here wrong. I don't know. I think I got kind of sloppy in citing the pages here. But it's between, I'm citing basically between pages like 55 and 65 in the book. So it gives you kind of a gist. But anyways, he states, know that all the Yihudim performed in this world, if done by prostrating over the grave of the Zadik, certainly it is required that you concentrate, because through the prostrations over it, you also cause this Zadik to prostrate his nefesh and spread his bones which are in the grave. And he returns to being, and his bones become, in a sense, a body to the nefesh prostrating and spreading in their midst. And this nefesh remains in the grave in the mystery of his nefesh mourning over it, that is that nefesh. And behold, at that hour, this tzaddik is as one who is alive in the body and nefesh. And if you perform the Yihudim in thy house, it is not by way of prostrating. There is no need to concentrate. For the world, it is necessary to concentrate, in a sense, through prostrations, or if in thy house, by concentrating on all the Yihudim to raise thy nefesh, and the nefesh of the tzaddik bound together, and thy nefesh includes his nefesh. Now here he is speaking on some of the most powerful holy rituals in holy magic that are essentially performing Yihudim over the grave of a tzaddik. And when you do this, this enhances the Yihud 1,000-fold, if not more. Now it is much easier for the supernal neshamot, urachim, or nefashot to descend from the supernal realms and impregnate or possess you, and to become one with them. And we seek this holy spiritual possession to aid in attaining higher levels of holiness. This is divine assistance. And sometimes we need all the divine assistance that we can get. And we can do this because the tzaddikim, the saints, are alive. They never died. It's a great mystery. There are those that are dead and those that are alive. Those that are in Sheol are dead, and they cannot be summoned. But those that are alive, the true living, who are in the supernal realms, they can be summoned. And this is one of the most powerful methods to not only summon them, to evoke them or even invoke them. Well, essentially, what I'm trying to say is that this is one of the most powerful methods to invoke and or evoke the holy elite saints, or the tzaddikim. Now, we have to understand that ibor, spiritual impregnation, is just an ancient Hebrew synonym for invocation. So through performing these powerful Yihudim at the grave of a tzaddik, you will either invoke the tzaddik or you can also evoke him. And when you evoke the tzaddik, he will appear there before you, and that's when he can begin to reveal to you a lot of holy mysteries and prophecies, etc. So it all depends on what your goal in performing these magical operations is. But when you invoke him, he then possesses you. You are in a state of holy, ibor, and then many powerful things can come through that holy possession of the nefesh of the tzaddik that you are invoking. Now we read in page 61, he states, "And it is required to concentrate on the root which the nefesh of the tzaddik and thy soul depend on from Adam Karmon. And you concentrate to arouse the place of the limb that depends on this soul of the tzaddik in Adam Karmon, and from the aspect of this limb you raise his nefesh in the mystery of the feminine waters. And if thy nefesh is, for example, from the essence or basis of this face of thy root, you concentrate to raise thy nefesh from the essence of this face until his head, and then thy nefesh will plead with the nefesh of the tzaddik, and then you arouse two nefashot together, and you are raised above in the mystery of the feminine waters." Again, on one level, he is speaking about the unification of the divine feminine and the divine masculine that is taking place when you are performing these Yihudim. He's also speaking on some very, very, very esoteric holy mysteries dealing with the divine roots of all of the Neshamoth, Urachim, and Nefashot. Okay? Now, the reason that this channel and these videos are only for Yisrael and only for Yisrael and not the Goyim is because it is only Yisrael that it can be said has its supernal root in the Sferoth. It's not the case with any of the Goyim. And so when you're performing this Yihudim, it is very important that you understand and that you are initiated enough to know what the supernal root of your nefesh or your neshama is. We understand, and the problem with Chaim Vital here is that he is weaving in some very comprehensive esoteric holy mysteries into this explanation of the Yihudim. And unfortunately, I don't have the time and space to expand on some of these holy mysteries that he's constantly weaving into his explanations here. But very briefly, we must understand that Adam Kadmon contains all of the Neshamoth and Nefashot of Yisrael. That's a very, very great, powerful mystery that is spoken of in many ancient Kabbalistic texts. It's elaborated upon. But essentially, quintessentially, Adam Kadmon or Mashiach contains and is the root of all of the Nefashot or Neshamoth of Yisrael. And you have to become initiated enough to know from what aspect of Adam Kadmon, from the body of Adam Kadmon, where your root is. Where is, from what branch, from what root or what leaf of the tree of life, who is Adam Kadmon, do you descend from? And this is only the case if you are Israel. If you are not an Israelite, then I'm sorry, you don't descend from the tree of life. Okay? There are some very inconvenient truths for humanity, and I guess I've been chosen to actually have to reveal or state some of them. Anyways, that's what he's speaking on here. He is speaking about that if you're going to perform this Yihudim, first of all, you have to be very holy to cause any effect. Otherwise, you won't see any effect. You won't cause any effect because you're not holy enough. Okay? And again, holiness is defined by how well you are observing and guarding all of the commandments in the Torah. So if you're not even doing that, if you're not even going to bother to study and learn the commandments of the Torah and to keep them and to observe them, then there's no point in you watching this video or even learning about this. It's going to all be immaterial, to you anyways. Okay, so you have to be very holy and understand, know, and study all the commandments and be keeping them at a very high level, like a true holy Zadik does. And then because of that, you'll get initiated enough to understand what from what is your supernal root from the tree of life or Adam Kadmon. So that when you perform the Yihudim, you have to concentrate. There's a lot of things that you have to concentrate on, and one of these things that you have to concentrate on very, very deeply is your root, to arouse and stimulate that root, and the Neshamoth and the Ruachim to descend from that root, to possess you. Now, moving on, we also read in page 61, he states, also, it is required that you know that if you know thyself to have a neshama, that you arouse also thy neshama within the neshama of this tzaddik. And if you do not have but a ruach, you arouse thy ruach alone. And if you do not have but a nefesh, you arouse thy nefesh. And when you reach to arouse the nefesh of the tzaddik, then you concentrate on the nefesh of the tzaddik, and you concentrate to join thy nefesh with him. Also, the essence of everything depends that you concentrate with vigorous great desire and love and joy, and remove all corporeality from over thy nefesh from everything. Again, as I'm always stating, carnality is inversely proportional to spirituality. So you have to be a very, very spiritual person to perform these Yihudim, meaning that you cannot be a carnal person. By definition, spiritual holy Tzaddikim are very spiritual, and they are so because they have resisted and mastered and rejected carnality to a very large extent. Okay, so that's one of the criteria for performing these Yihudim, is that you must be very spiritual and you cannot be a carnal person. Okay, if you're not fasting on a continually regular basis every year throughout the year, okay, and abstaining from sexual relations on a very consistent basis as well, etc., and moving into an ascetic lifestyle, then again, you're not going to have much effect in performing this Yihudim. These Yihudim are performed by true, powerful, high-level Zadikim. These are Zadikim who have come a very long way in achieving a very austere, ascetic lifestyle, holy lifestyle, in addition to keeping the commandments of the Torah. Okay? And so, again, he also mentions here is that everyone is at a different level, spiritually. Okay? Not every Israelite possesses a neshama. Not every Israelite possesses a ruach. In fact, the vast majority of Israelites only possess a nefesh, or a soul. It is the nefesh that is tied with carnality. And that's the most basic spiritual level that you can possess, is a nefesh. Most Israelites, it cannot be said of most Israelites that they possess a ruach or a neshama. If you're not keeping the commandments of the Torah at a very high level, okay, and you're not holy at a very high level, then chances are, probably over 90% probability, you don't have a ruach. You most definitely do not have a neshama. And so you're definitely not going to be able to commune with Elohei Israel. You're not going to be able to have visitations of Mashiach and receive holy revelation and understand the secrets of the Torah. Without a ruach, without a neshama, you cannot achieve those states. Okay? So it's very, very important that you attain higher levels of spirituality, that you attain those higher rungs. Okay? So that's what he's saying here. He's saying, performing the Yehudim happens at many levels. There are some who are very, very low level saints. They're just maybe partially initiated and they want to perform them, and that's fine. And if they do, then they're only going to be operating on the realm of the nefesh. But there are higher realms, there are higher spiritual levels. Okay? And the goal is to reach and operate at those higher levels. Now, we also read in the same page, he states, the matter of what is written over the verse, and then he quotes Talmud Bavli, Tractate Ta'anith, folio 5a, where it states, I will not come into the cities, whereas Hakadosh Baruch Hu, I will not enter the heavenly Jerusalem. Now, he states, know that all the names of Bina are without vowel points, but the names of Chokhmah are with vowel points. And behold, when we unite the father and the mother, or cause them to mate, it is not fitting to concentrate on the names with vowel points, because indeed Hakadosh Baruch Hu swears that he will not enter the heavenly Jerusalem. Indeed, it is required to concentrate on the names without vowel points, for then these names are in the father and Bina is established. Now we have to understand that from the modern Kabbalistic perspective, Bina is a reference to the Divine Mother within the Godhead, and Chokhmah is a reference to the Divine Father within the Godhead. Now, if you have seen my other videos and you are fully initiated, you understand that that's an error and that's actually switched. Or not totally switched. Actually, Bina actually refers to the Son, and Chokhmah refers to the Mother. But the core essence of what he's saying here is that is not to get so caught up in the titles here, but to get caught up in the essence of the titles. Meaning, we are speaking here on principally on the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and the unification of the Father and the Mother within the Godhead, which are much, much, much higher than the divine Son and the divine Daughter within the Godhead. Okay? So, unite the Mother and the Father within the Godhead, which, by the way, are always united within the Godhead anyways, but you can, even though they're always united, you can move to even further strengthen their unification Yihudim that go that far in uniting those realms that are at the highest level are only performed successfully by the most elite saints. And again, I'm speaking on like saints like, Rab Hamuna Saba, uh, you know, Arizal, etc. These are very, very highly initiated Kabbalists. Most low-level saints are not gonna get to that level, so to speak. But again, another core point here is that he is saying that, and this is very momentous to understand, is that when you are performing these Yihudim, that you are not enunciating these names with the vowel pointings, any vowel pointings for that matter, when you are performing them. So when you are meditating and performing these magical operations in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, you are not to verbalize them, I guess, in a sense. They're not to be verbalized through any vowel pointings. And it says this is a very crucial requisite in successfully performing these Yihudim. Now we also read, he states, "Behold, the prayers which man prays over them are more heard and received by Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It is required that man labors in meditation, concentrating every day from the 7 days of the week on one name of the 42-letter divine name." Now, all he's really saying here is that when you are praying over the grave of a saint, especially when you are mourning and weeping, in your prayers over that saint, these prayers are like some of the most powerful, if not the most powerful prayers you can perform. In other words, these type of prayers are those that are heard and received more than any other prayers that you may pray to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? That's all he's really saying here. And I'm hoping, I think it's pretty common sense why this would be the case. Now, he then goes a little bit, he sort of extends himself, and he goes into also detailing other operations that a Tzaddik should be involved in from time to time. One of them being, according to him, and actually to many Kabbalists, really, is that they should be every day they should concentrate. They should allot a certain amount of time to concentrate on one name of the 7 names of the 42-letter divine name. Okay. And again, this divine name is well beyond the canon scope of this video, so I'm not really going to get into that here. But you can go in the meantime, and you can go into your own research on the 42-letter divine name, and I guess that's what I have to leave. I have to just leave it at that. But I will say that meditating on those divine names definitely is very powerful. In fact, he actually on this page, and I didn't translate the rest of it because it's beyond the canon scope of this video, but on this page he actually goes into a little bit of a detailed mystical disquisition on the most powerful divine name of within the 42 divine letter name. And just to give you a hint, that name includes the name of Hasatan. Now, we read in pages 62, he states, "Know that the essence of all the Yihudim, irregardless where they are performed, behold, the power of the Yihudim is more amplified on Rosh Chodesh and the 15th of the month than any other day. And when performing Yihudim over the graves of the Tzaddikim, you do not prostrate on the holy feast dates, because then the Neshamot rise above and are not reached. And so even on the holy feast dates, you may pray over them, but you should not perform Yihudim. And if you are in thy house, you may perform Yihudim, but after midnight, as that is the desired time, as is known, for that is the desired hour more than any other hour." Now, again, what he's stating here really should be common knowledge to all holy initiates and all holy adepts. Okay, I would go as far as to say, as a, I guess, intellectual Israelite, that you should know that supernatural power is amplified on the holy feast dates than any other days. That's all he's saying here. Specifically, Rosh Chodesh and full moon are when it's really when supernatural power or spiritual power is amplified more than any other days. In fact, the most optimal time to perform holy magical operations are on the holy feast days, specifically Rosh Chodesh and full moons. Although not all full moons are holy feast dates, regardless of that, they are still desired times where spiritual and supernatural power is at its peak. And I personally, as a holy magician, I tend to I always maximize my magical operations on the holy feast dates, and most definitely on Rosh Chodesh and the full moons. Now, you can perform Yihudim whether you are in a house, whether you are alone in your house, or whether you are at a gravesite. Now, performing Yihudim over the graves of Tzaddikim should optimally be performed at the graves that are in Israel, because that's where you amplify the drawing down of the neshamot and the spiritual power, etc. I have a video on my channel here where you can see me praying at the grave of Arizal. Now, in Safed, Israel, there's an entire cemetery. It's one of the most nicest and most beautiful cemeteries in the world, where are all of the greatest Grandmaster Kabbalists. They're buried there. It's a very, very nice, beautiful place. And this is why all Kabbalists flock to that city, because they can perform the most powerful magical Kabbalistic operations there, because they have easy access and they're within walking distance of one of the most powerful graves in the world, where is buried the most holiest saints in the world. And not too far from the cemetery of Sfath is the gravesite of Rashbi, or Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. And I don't even have time and space to get into just the quintessence of his holiness. It's extremely great. It's on par with Yeshua and Moshe. It really is. And praying over that gravesite is probably the most powerful thing you can do. And there is then the grave sites of the ancient patriarchs, like that of King David in Jerusalem, which I have been to. Praying there is very powerful. So again, if the most optimal and most powerful grave sites that you can perform these Yihudim are those that are in Israel. The ones that are in Israel are the best. That's not to say that there aren't Tzaddikim that have been buried in other parts of the world, whether it's here in the U.S. or Morocco or whatever, or wherever we have been throughout the diaspora. But it is most optimal to perform the Yihudim at the most holiest grave sites in Israel. So that's a really momentous point that needs to be stated and understood, because I think that you will have the most powerful success if you are truly going to become fully initiated and go down this path. You will have the most powerful success in performing them in Israel. The goal is to move to Israel, to make aliyah to Israel, and then there, wherever you choose to live, you will be more easily able to perform the most powerful Yihudim there. But again, if you don't have that luxury, in fact, I don't have that luxury at the current moment, then you can just perform the Yihudim in your house alone. And I'll speak a little greater on performing Yihudim in your house towards the end of this presentation. Moving on, in pages 63, he states, "Know that the Yihudim of the divine expansions of the Hays and the Yods of the Tetragrammaton, which I write below through the help of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, you must unify them more precisely, carefully than all the other Yihudim. On weeknights, perform them after midnight. On Shabbat, you may perform them before midnight or after dinner." Now here, he's revealing another desired time to perform the Yihudim. So, one, we know that the most optimal time are the holy feast dates, especially Rosh Chodesh and a full moon. But also, the second most optimal time is in the nighttime, specifically around the times between midnight and 3 a.m. There are many great mysteries as to why. One of them being that this is when everyone is asleep. And because humanity is dormant, the majority of humanity is dormant between midnight and 3 a.m., the spiritual realm is more activated and can be drawn forth from much more easily as a result of this. We also should duly note that when he speaks here of the Yihudim, of the divine expansions of the Haze and the Yod, this alludes to the divine expansions of the Tetragrammaton, which, again, I don't have the time and space to get into here. But what should be known is that most of the Yihudim are centered around the divine expansions of the Tetragrammaton. There's a lot of power in the divine expansions, in the written divine expansions of the Tetragrammaton. And so what I was really saying is that any Yihudim that deal with these divine expansions, these are Yihudim that must be handled and dealt with very carefully and very precisely. They're very, very holy Yihudim. Now, we read in pages 63 to 66, he states, furthermore, there are other types of Yihudim to purify and clean the nefesh. And the secret of the matter is, know that Torah is the quarry of all the neshamot of Israel, for from her they were hewn. Therefore, the Torah is one, Israel is one, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. It is the mystery of the six Sefirot, which are Chesed, Geburah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. In them, the written Torah was rooted. They are the revealed universe, which reveal the commandments of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not so with the three chief Sefirot, who are the concealed universe. They are the six stubbles, for from there are the 12 tribes of Israel. They are the 600,000 pawns, like the number 6. And they are the mystery of the 60 myriads of the roots of the Neshamoth, and no more. And this is the mystery of a generation comes and a generation goes, quoting the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 4. There is no generation with less than these 60 myriads of Neshamoth of Yisrael, and the essence of these Yihudim are before one goes to sleep upon his bed in meditation and concentration, and on the evening of Yom Kippurim, his nefesh rises above and receives additional enlightenment. Now, here he's beginning to discourse on one of the other functions of the Yihudim, which is to clean and atone the nefesh that has sinned or transgressed, or really violated the Holy Covenant, that is the Torah. Now, he reveals a very, very great holy mystery that I have repeated a number of times in some of my videos, which is that we, Israel, are superior to all the other Goyim, because it is only of us that it can be said that our existential root is in the Sefirot. More specifically, in Shekhinah, the one and only one divine goddess of all goddesses, the mother of all mothers, cannot be said for all the other Goyim. And I don't have the time to go into the holy mysteries on explaining the existential roots of all the other Goyim, which are inferior to our supernal divine root, the tree of life, Adam Kadmon, Shekhinah. Now, it must be very momentously understood that in this excerpt of Chaim Vital, what he is stating here is nothing new whatsoever. Everything that he is stating here and writing here is taken exactly right out of Sefer Tikkunei HaZohar. There are portions of Sefer Tikkunei HaZohar that go very, very deep into the principal holy mystery that Chaim Vital is getting at and attempting to explain here. Unfortunately, it's beyond the canon scope of this video, so I can't really get into it. But I assure you, it is most sublime. The point here is that there are other Yihudim whose function is to clean and atone the nefesh. And he says that these Yihudim would ideally be performed right before you go to bed. So just before you go to bed, you'll meditate on these Yihudim, you'll concentrate on these Yihudim, and they will serve to atone and clean your nefesh. And then if you do this for many days throughout the year, and you do this consistently, then he says on Yom Kippurim, your nefesh will rise above and it will receive additional enlightenment, among other things. Now, I want us now switch a little over to speaking on the core subject that we're really dealing with here is really the highest levels of holy Magikh, as I like to state. Now we read again. We need to understand that this whole very holy, ancient, magical ritual of praying over the graves of Tzaddikim, it's not anything new. It's been done for over a millennium by many holy saints, and in fact, again, just demonstrating that all of these teachings in the Lurianic Qabbalah are nothing new. We find this, we read about this many times in Sefer HaZohar. In fact, in Sefer HaZohar in Parashat Acharei Moth, in Book 3 in Folio 7GB, it states, "At the hour the world needs mercy, and the living informed nefashot of the Tzaddikim, weeping over the graves of those who are worthy of being informed." Why? Because they set their concentration to fuse nefesh to nefesh. As you can see here, the Zohar briefly speaks on this most powerful magical white holy ritual, which is performed by only the most highly initiated Kabbalists. Now, all Chaim Vital and does in many of his books is just elaborate on this very powerful magical ritual, holy magical ritual, divine magical ritual, which again was all of the full mechanics and dynamics and knowledge of it were already well mastered and known before Chaim Vital even wrote about it in his books. So, very important to understand. Now, we must not be stupid here. Okay? Listen to me. We must not be or get stupid here. We must not be like many Christians and or Jews, okay, who are very ignorant and might be stupid enough to state, "Oh, this is a most blasphemous act. You are performing necromancy." I asked these ignorant Jews and Christians, is this really necromancy? Do you even know what necromancy means? Do you really know what true necromancy is? Well, they're not initiated. You see, they haven't mastered the most ancient Torah. Now, if you understand the arcane construct of duality, then you know that there are two forms of necromancy. There is a holy, divine form, that of which we have been speaking throughout this entire video, and then there is a verboten form, as is prescribed in the Torah. Okay? What we have been speaking up to this point is about the most powerful white magic. Now, let us speak briefly on its perverse reflection vis-a-vis black magic, sorcery. We read in that same parashat of Sefer HaZohar, it states, "Those sorcerers who would go to cemeteries and perform their sorcery and make an image of a human and slaughter before it one goat, afterward they will put that goat into a certain grave, break that image into 4 quarters and place them in the 4 corners of the grave. Then they would perform their sorcery, and a group of those evil species gathers and brings that nefesh which enters the grave and speaks with them." Now, here we have to understand this book was written by the most initiated Grandmaster Kabbalists like myself. It is not enough that you are initiated into the holy mysteries, but you must be initiated into the Luciferian satanic mysteries. I am. They were too. Now, these are black magicians. These are Luciferians. These are hardcore Satanists. And there are many of them in this generation. They are everywhere. Numerous stupid, retarded votaries of Aleister Crowley, Delima, etc., and all this nonsense and garbage. They're all going to burn in hell. Okay? We know what they're up to. We know what they do. And this is why performing these Yihudim counteracts these Luciferian operations that they perform. They have their own set of magical operations that they perform to invoke and evoke powerful demonic and Luciferian gods and demons, etc. We have to understand this arcane construct of duality, that the Luciferian domain is but a perverse reflection of the holy domain. So again, it's all very critical to put in spiritual perspective. Now, we also read in, going back to the Gate to the Holy Spirit of Haim Vital in page 68, he states, "Behold, when man performs Yihudim of Elyon and concentrates to make every Yihud corresponding to its relation, the relation of Nefesh to Nefesh, the relation of Ruach to Ruach, the relation of the Neshama to the Neshama, and concentrates to cleave to the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of this saint through these Yihudim, every one of its relation, and so his Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama cleaves to this Zadik at that hour of Yehud. Behold, then his Nefesh cleaves to his Nefesh without cessation." Again, you have to become initiated enough to understand the holy mysteries of what is taking place when your Nefesh, whether it's your Nefesh or your Ruach or your Neshama, that is fusing with the corresponding Part2 of the Zadik. What's really going on? What's the purpose of all of this? Where are we going? What are we getting at? Well, quintessentially, the Zadik is, in this case, the saint that is performing these magical operations. Again, the end goal is to arouse and stimulate not just conjugal union between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, specifically the masculine and female principles within the Sferoth, but also rectifying the other supernal universes, the parallel universes to our universe, which control our universe principally. And in so doing all of this, when these parts of Fim are fusing together, then there is a spiritual ascent that takes place. And well, I guess I have to stop myself there from going any deeper, lest I get in trouble. So, moving on to the last slide here, I wanted to give a very personal and powerful anecdote of my experience with the Yihudim. Now, again, I'm hoping that many of you are very grateful. You can learn from a real, true Grandmaster, highly initiated Grandmaster Kabbalist, not like all of those pseudo Kabbalists that you see about out there. You'll know that you have a true Grandmaster Kabbalist on your hands when you know and when you see him healing people and performing supernatural miracles and walking in the Spirit, almost like a modern day Jesus, so to speak. That's what a true Grandmaster Kabbalist is like. If you've ever met any of them, if you ever knew any of them, you would know this. Okay? Now, So it's all about, you know, having a supernatural track record. If you're going to truly call yourself a Grandmaster Kabbalist or a highly initiated Kabbalist or preach or teach on the Kabbalah, you better have a supernatural track record. And I do. So, one powerful anecdote is some time ago, um, I was being attacked in a very profound, powerful way by demons, nothing more than minions of Lucifer. You know, we must understand that I'm just a man like most other men, and you know, temptations are common to every man, and I'm no exception. And I was dealing with a very powerful temptation. I'm not going to get too personal here. I'm not going to get too caught up in the details because it's a very personal anecdote, and it would reveal and say much too much. It would reveal and say too much about me. But all I can tell you is that I was undergoing a very powerful temptation. A sin, a temptation that would lead to a sin, in which the Torah would stipulate death for. I guess that's how major it was. And I was brought down to my knees. And I was very tempted. I would say I was minutes away from performing the sin, so to speak. And it was very hardcore. It's very powerful. It's words can't explain, you know, what it's like when demons are attacking you in a very powerful way, so to speak. And luckily, I have a very strong spirit, and I know the techniques, you know, to combat temptation and sin. And the first thing that I did, which is the most powerful thing you can ever do, greatest secret to holy Magikh, is to light incense. And so I lit a lot of incense on my altar. I was in my room, and when this temptation occurred, I was alone in my room, and I got a lot of incense and I lit it up. And the second thing that I did was I began to perform Yihudim. I began to perform some very, very powerful Yihudim. The Yihudim that I performed were Yihudim that were specifically designed for the type of sin and temptations that related to my temptation or sin that I wanted to commit. And literally, it took less than about a couple of minutes that I felt a very powerful divine possession. It was like a very powerful Holy Spirit came into my body, and I could feel it, and it was very powerful. And in fact, when I was praying, when I lit the incense and I was praying before I performed the Yihudim, my specific prayer was to draw forth from certain emanations within this earth. And indeed, those powerful Holy Spirits descended upon me, and the temptation completely went away. Just absolutely completely went away. And that was good. So I wanted to relate this anecdote because I think that one of the lesser known functions of the Yihudim is that for spiritual battle. And I think it's something that isn't really spoken a lot about. It's something that's not really spoken a lot by many Kabbalists, unfortunately. But I wanted to stress that one of the core functions of the Yihudim is for success in spiritual battle. And so I definitely wanted to relate that powerful story just to underscore that this is all very real. This is all very, very real and very, very powerful holy magic. So with that, shalom, amen.